is everyone doing? Welcome. It is Monday. It is the start of the week. It is the first stream of the week. And I am Warren. And this is the stream here on the MrWarrenHayes Show YouTube channel. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a good start to this brand new week, you know, that is just full of possibilities. It's just chock full of opportunity, possibility. You know, I don't know why anyone else would be like looking at what you're doing and saying, you know, why aren't you enjoying your Monday more? Don't you realize it's full of opportunity? And you'd be like, hot damn, I do, but leave me alone. I don't know. Yeah, and I hope you had a lovely weekend. More importantly, hope you all had the opportunity to take advantage of the Halloween festivities, despite you know, whatever you do. May it be going out with friends, may it be, you know, enjoying it with the children's, or maybe it's a you know, just you know, plopping down and watching the scary flicks. Whatever it is you decided to do this weekend, I hope you enjoyed it. I watched a couple of films this weekend alongside my darling Christian. my darling Kristen. I don't know why that was so hard. For some reason, it was really, really difficult. Two movies that ended up being a lot funnier than I thought they were going to be. First of all, watched the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake. I don't know if Chad, I don't know if anyone has seen this. I can't say I recommend it. I think it's kind of I think it's kind of bad. I think it's kind of not good. And I think they were trying to, like, Kristen would tell me, it's like, oh, but they're emulating, you know, the style of early 2000s horror films. I'm like, are they? Or 90s, whenever. When was that series out? I guess it would have been the 90s, right? Because Jennifer Love Hewitt. They're trying to reinvoke that style. I'm like, what was the horror style back then? Like, you know, if it hadn't been for Scream, the horror genre would have probably just, like, you know, self-immolated. You know, there wasn't a lot of good stuff going on. So I'm like, okay, what is the genre they're trying to ape? Like, if you talk about 70s horror flicks, right? You know, they have a vibe to them. It's the same thing with horror movies in the 80s. I think, like, the 90s is just like, oh, let's just do horror movies because, you know, people get spooked by them and they'll take their girlfriends to see the spook film and you know, maybe they'll get lucky. You know, it's just, you know, it was quickly done, you know. That's all, you know. It's like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm drawing a blank. But I'm like, what is the style that you're trying, and it's like the style of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Well, it's not like overtly stylistic. It's pretty contrived. Anyway, I didn't quite care for it. I thought it was funny at times. But I'm like, whatever. And then we also watched Together, which purports to be a body horror film, right? But which is actually like slapstick comedy when you put it all together. It's a movie that is shocking, if only because of how much you will laugh throughout it. I think it's a legitimately, I think it's a legitimately funny thing. It's a funny, funny motion picture. And I highly suggest it to anyone who wants to enjoy, have a good laugh, have a good surprise laugh, because I was not expecting it to be funny, but I don't know how much it was supposed to be funny. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, yeah, so you know, you can give it a shot for that, you know, especially if you like, you know, elevated horror, I guess, you know, that the metaphor is so thinly veiled. And you're like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't think either protagonist is in the couple. I don't think either of them are all that. They're all that endearing. Like, you don't really, like, you kind of find both of them to be like not likable. I don't know. They kind of, anyway, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like, it's just really weird. It's a weird one. I'm not quite sure what the message is either at the end. Anywho, I'm going to be much more excited to watch the Smiling Friends Halloween episode after I'm done here. I think that aired yesterday, so it should be on HBO Max today. And that'll probably be better and spookier than fucking Together was. So, you know, it's like, but it was a good time. It was a good time. Today is Godzilla Day. Perhaps even more importantly, it is Godzilla's anniversary today. And they announced the title of the next Godzilla film that will be a follow-up to -1. And I think it's going to be called -0, which is weird. But nonetheless, okay. Like, look, give me some really frightening, spooky Godzilla stuff, and I will be into it. It's funny because we were talking about it in the Discord the other day. We're talking about the Godzilla films and how excited, like, oh yeah, it was 2 weeks ago when I was sick, and I was looking down for stuff to watch, you know, as I was agonizing in illness, and I was like, I really want to rewatch Shin Godzilla because I really liked Shin Godzilla. I hadn't seen it in years. I was like, man, I'd really like to watch it. And I scoured the internet trying to figure out where, because I was like, it's got to be streamed somewhere, right? Because it's not streaming anywhere in North America. It wasn't even streaming in Japan, which kind of shocked me. And I was like, well, where's it streaming? Where's this? And I finally found out, you know, via the magic of VPNs, right? I finally found out that it was streaming on Prime, Amazon Prime Video, in Brazil. So I just got all that shit set up and watched the film, and someone in the Discord we were talking to, and they asked me, I said, well, you know, which one did you prefer? Which one do you prefer between -1 and Shin? And I would say that I preferred -1 because it feels, like a complete cinematic experience. It feels like a full-fledged movie, if that makes sense, you know, where you sit down and, you know, there's big stuff happening and there's an engrossing plot with characters you really like, and, you know, it's an extremely well crafted, well put together, heartfelt movie. Whereas Shin is a great film too, but I always thought that the hero, well, not the hero, but, you know, the main protagonist, how about that, of Shin Godzilla was the Japanese bureaucracy. And it's not as much, I know you have like pivotal characters, you have these characters that serve as your anchor points, right? But it's never about these characters. Whereas in -1, it does become about everything is centered around the former kamikaze pilot. You'll bear with me if I can't remember his name. Where the story is all about him and how this is a redemption for him, about making a difference for himself, for his newfound family. And there's just a bunch of really delightful characters around him as well. So I felt that was a better film, a better moment of cinema than Shin does, despite the fact that even though I knew it was coming, I still got weirded out, got shaken a little bit when the second evolution of Godzilla happens in Shin, the one that's crawling on its tummy. That face that it has, when they do the front-facing shot when it's just marauding through the buildings, and you're like, it's still a terrifying image. It's still a terrifying image. That's the second version, the second evolution of Godzilla, who is like his most Pokemon-esque format. Anyway, so there you go. Happy Godzilla Day, everyone, and happy new start of a fresh era of WWE. Whatever the fuck Paul Levesque said, it doesn't matter. Let's say hello to AEW Women's Division blog. How are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the MrWarrenHayes show channel. How about that, you fiends? It's nice to see you and welcome. Speaking of members, you've also got Patrick who's here. Nice to see you, brother. DGMC also here as well. Member of the channel. Is this not the Warren on Shrooms soundtrack? Oh, God. G. Willikers, no, it is not. And you will know it when that happens. Pedro the Fifth, nice to see you and welcome. And give me back my hour 8 school. Apparently, it's like really difficult. Some people find it extremely difficult to go back to standard time as opposed to daylight savings. And why is that? I don't understand why. You actually gain an hour of sleep. When you go to bed before 2 a.m., of course. You actually get, or you go to bed at 2 a.m., then it becomes 1. So you actually get unless you're plowing through it throughout the evening because you're one more hour to party or whatever. It shouldn't it be easier? I find it's easier. You get an extra hour of sleep. Now, my dog doesn't understand that it's an extra hour of sleep. So she's up at her regular time, which then is an hour earlier, right? But she's up at her regular time. So, I can understand, she's a dog. So she has to figure it out. She'll figure it out through the little routine we'll have set up. She's going to be like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay. Well, her clock will readjust, but I don't know. Does anyone else find this hard? Apparently it's something that can be extremely difficult for people. I'm I don't get it. I don't understand why. Meggy O'Kenna, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the channel. How you doing? Carlos, nice to see you too. Let's watch some wrestling. Nice to see you as well. Member of the channel. We watched several movies on Halloween, including Night of the Creeps and Trick or Treat. I know it's not how you pronounce it. Went golfing Sunday and then redid a friend's bathroom while watching The Bears. That's fantastic. That's a lovely weekend. It includes your high level of procrastination, which I will never achieve. Warren's starting to get the Steen beard. See, I'm gonna shave it off soon because I wanted to. I know this is a common topic on the channel, but I wanted to prove to myself that my beard still isn't it will never grow in full on the sides here. In the front here, it's it's fantastic. It's nice and thick. It can run your fingers through it. It's soft. It's not a bristly, rough beard. It's a very soft beard. Ladies love it. Or they will love it. Or they should love it. They could love it. But you see, like even with the white in it, which makes it look lighter on camera, it light as in density light, you know, it's still it's very light. And then it's like we said here, it starts like bulbing out here, you know, so it's like, all right, fine, you win again. Lack of facial hair, fuck you. Surprised you didn't watch Santa Slay? No, that's a lie. About Together, the point was it was self-funded and they are married together in real life. Oh, I know. I mean, if they want, I mean, they can do whatever they want as far as an art project together, you know, it's fine. But I thought it was kind of funny and dopey. I discovered Smiling Friends last week and it's changed my life. It is awesome. It is great. I know a lot of people like to point at Rick and Morty as like this, you know, this bastion of Adult Swim, you know, kind of thing. But I was a big adopter of early Adult Swim. So I was there from the get-go, you know, once they melded Space Ghost Coast to Coast in there with Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Space Lab and Brock Show, yeah, all of the obviously the shows that followed. You know, the Squidbillies was the show I really liked. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is still one of my favorite TV shows ever. It's still a comfort show to me. So like to me, Smiling Friends is much closer to the original incarnation of Adult Swim, of what Adult Swim should be, if that makes sense, as opposed to Rick and Morty, which has, it's great. It's well produced. There's a lot of effort, a lot of money put behind it. It's very smart. It's very well put. It's well written. It's well animated. It's good. But, it doesn't feel like an Adult Swim cartoon, whereas, Smiling Friends does. Like, it's absolutely in that old school vibe that they had. Does anyone remember 12 Ounce Mouse? Like, that was really fucking out there. That was some wild, like poorly drawn Lynchian shit. But I liked it. I was into it. What was the other one that was super controversial? There was another one. Great Hair Forever, right? Wasn't that one? I think that's what it was. That was another one that was super controversial. I was like, yeah, man, this is kind of fun. And that's where Tim and Eric started off too, with Tom Goes to the Mayor. I'm a big fan of old school Frisky Dingo, from the guys who then would later develop Archer, right? In the same style, the same animated style. Harvey Birdman, my God, the first season of Harvey Birdman is still ridiculous. And the thing is that, because I'm going to speak on Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, for a second, because I rewatched it recently, because sometimes I'll put on like some of these cartoons off of HBO Max, while I'm doing stuff, okay, and it'll just be running in the background. And I was rewatching some Harvey Birdman, and I was looking at it, and it was like, a lot of those jokes that happened back then, right, in regards to making fun of these cartoon characters, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo being, being potheads, and so on and so forth. It's old hat now. Like, everyone has done those jokes. It's like the Venture Bros, which is another fantastic, one of my favorite shows. Like the Venture Bros, they were doing all of this deconstruction of superhero culture and comic book culture and pop culture. They were doing all of that before it became the norm. We're talking like in 2002, all stuff that people are doing like right now, like that's kind of a lot more in vogue, you know, where you have The Boys on TV and stuff like that. And I mean, it was spectacularly good. And I'm looking at Harvey Birdman, so I'll circle back to Harvey Birdman. I'm like, man, this does not stand up to today. Like, it aged really poorly because now it's just like, it's like old hat to make fun of these old cartoons. Despite the fact that I really, really liked, you know, the Flintstones as a mob family, right? Like a Sopranos, like in a Sopranos type of deal. Like, I still think that's fantastic. Fred Flintstone being a Don, I think it's such a great angle, you know. But look, that you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. You know, you do things that are topical at the time, and they don't age well. But you know, kind of like, yeah, this is like, especially the Scooby-Doo stuff, where you're like, this isn't funny. But the way that the Venture Brothers did the Scooby-Doo thing, because there's one episode where they're clearly poking fun at Scooby-Doo, and they're actually portraying like the gang as a like this cult that's led by Fred, who's like clearly insane and a serial killer, and everyone is sort of like under his thumb. It's tremendous stuff. It's tremendous stuff. All of that stuff. Anyway, so that's to say, Smiling Friends is awesome because it really is in that. It really is in that vibe, right? And not surprising, like, these are Newgrounds guys. So, like, not surprising they would understand this. They get it. Like, you know, it's anyway, it's fine. It's fine. I've also started watching Haha, You Clowns. And it is the weirdest, most endearing show that I have seen in a long time. And I highly recommend, if you're into the Adult Swim stuff, I highly recommend you give that a shot, because it's really dopey, but in a nice, wholesome way. But anyway, it's about family life. It's, you know, 3 sons and their dad, and everyone loves each other. Like, there's no conflict, there's no sibling rivalry. It's just everyone loves each other, and I promise you, like, it's goofy, it's dopey. And it's tremendous. I strongly recommend. I was gonna say highly and strongly, and I was about to say hongly. That didn't make any sense. So, but that's one you should check out. In fact, I think there's a new episode today. You didn't know daylight savings was done? Okay, good job. Good job, DGMC. Every time I convince myself I want to grow a beard, my wife reminds me about that sex I wanted to have again ever, and I abandoned the thought. Man, she'd grow to love it. That's the thing. She thinks she hates it. See, this is the thing. I think there's a lot of women who think they hate facial hair until they meet facial hair. And they're like, this isn't so bad. Now, it depends, right? If the beard you grow is like a fucking Brillo pad, you're fucked, dude. Yeah, of course. But if it's, you know, soft and, you know, well kept, and just like, oh, you know what, this isn't so bad. I really do believe that. Look, because honestly, what do women prefer? What do women prefer? Like, do they want a nice, soft, luscious beard, or do they want their boyfriend to be, you know, super closely shaved, but then, you know, you get your 4 o'clock shadow and you're all rough and around the edges. Don't run up. You're chafing my thighs. You know, it's like, what do they prefer then? Then you ask them, well, honey, it's either one or the other. And I'm not going to, you know, I'm not shaving every day. Like, you can't. Well, you can, but it's insane. I miss Moral Laurel. That was a good one too. God damn, that was great. How fucking great was Moral Laurel? Incredibly dark episodes too. C-Lab 2021, Matt, still the GOAT. It's one of the greatest. Season 1, just one of the greatest seasons of television ever put on. Man, that show took a dive when the original Captain Murphy passed away, right? Well, I say the original, they just completely replaced the character. But the the guy who voiced Captain Murphy, I can't remember. I don't remember his name, but he was like a Broadway performer. He was awesome. He was so, that dude was funny. That dude was so funny. It was a good show. I believe I saw Cowboy Bebop for the first time on Adult Swim. Same here. Same here. They had all these great intertwining things. You know, it's like you could discover different types of animation or, new stuff. And it was just like, it was axed on discovery. It wasn't just like all, stoner material. Not all stoner 2 a.m. material. It was like, if you chuck in, you will find some great stuff here. I remember watching that stuff as a kid, thinking this is too grown up for me right now. Then I went back to watching Dragon Ball Z and Gundam before returning to Bebop years later. Well, nice of you to be like, no, this is mature. I cannot be watching that. I'd be like, I'd be closing the door like to the living room, making sure mom didn't come in to check as I'm sitting there watching, I'm watching the Brack show or something. Don't walk in on this, mom. Please. I can't do it. Metalocalypse was indeed fantastic. That was great. I love the Death Clock stuff. It was so stupid. It was so stupid. It was so weird. It was such a weird show, but in a good way. And I'm saying, oh yeah, here's a weird show on Adult Swim, as if it's. And I was about to say home movies. Holy smokes, Convoy! Welcome to the. Did I say hello to you, member of the channel, and etc. etc. Home movies was fantastic. H. John Benjamin in one of his earliest voice roles. Coach McGurk, just absolutely, but just a great cast all around. Just a great cast all around. My old man, rest in peace. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Thought Brack was the funniest character he'd ever seen. He could do the voice spot on and memorize a bunch of the songs. Oh my. Good. That's fantastic. Your dad was someone special. Holy smokes. Anyway, watch Smiling Friends. Watch Ha Ha You Clowns. It's good stuff. I kind of feel like there's a really good vibe for Adult Swim has a good vibe these days. I find they're being adventurous again, and that's good. And I also watched their what do you call it? The one with the medicinal mushrooms, which was really, really good. Mike Judge's thing. Known side effects or something like that. So I can never remember the fucking title, but that was really good too. Anyway, I feel Adult Swim's is in a good spot these days. It's very interesting. Anyway, is wrestling in a good spot these days? We're about to find out because we're going to talk about it. William Davis, how are you? Welcome to the chat, bro. Also a member of the channel. Common side effects. Thank you, Meggie. Yes. Terrific stuff. Riveting. I think it's really, really good. Hey, I'm Warren and you're on my channel. And there's a fair chance that you're not subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, you should. And do the bell gimmick and all that stuff. Cause I look at my analytics and there's a lot of people who come to the channel who are returning viewers of the channel, but are not subscribed. Now, I don't know specifically who you are. But I know you are there. I know you're out there. I know you exist. So just subscribe to the channel. Like, well, what's the issue? I mean, at this point in our relationship, right? You've always been coming back, right? You know, there's nothing to be coy about. You can let's just make let's just do it. Let's just do it. You know, never mind what everyone else is going to think. Never mind what other people are going to say. You just leave that all aside, you know, and just jump in and do it. Oh my God, Scavenger's Reign was awesome, but that was not an Adult Swim thing, right? I think it was just like on Max. That is a tragedy that no one is doing that show anymore. That was pristine levels of animation. That was a compelling story. That was a gorgeous show. I am sorry to sidetrack again into cartoons here, but Scavenger's Reign was phenomenal. I was so stoked for season 2, and it's never going to happen. And that stinks, because that was a truly innovative, creative show with some ideas that you had not seen on TV yet. Fucking hell. Anyway. So yeah, like buttons and all of that, and the subscribers and all of that. We should be back in form. Hey, I have a review that's available right now for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It's the review of the New Japan's show this past weekend. Hiroshi Tanahashi's final goodbye, final memorial goodbye. I can't remember what it's called. It's his final show in Gifu. And I was trying to look for it because I watched it the next day. No, I watched it the same day, but after. No, I watched it on Sunday. And I was looking for it. I was like, wait, I can't find it. Like I was typing in the name and I couldn't find it. And then I realized, like on the New Japan World, they just called it New Japan NJPW Super Junior World Cup. I'm like, oh. I thought the title was, I thought the show was for Hiroshi Tanahashi to have a chance to wrestle one last time in his hometown and make a big deal out of it. And anyway, all right. Anyway, the review is out. It is available right now for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. So what is a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel? Well, you know, when you become a member of a YouTube channel, you get like little incentives, you get little perks. Well, early access to these reviews is the principal perk. I was going to say one of the perks, but you know, what else is there? Between, you know, if we're being completely honest, I'm not going to say, oh, it's one of the multiple perks you're going to get. No, there's no multiple perks. That's the one. That's the thing. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get early access to this kind of stuff. And we are going to, so you can go check that out. Of course, it's going to be available to all of the freeloaders this week on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast proper, which will be out on Wednesday, of course. Then we will have the Dynamite review, the weekly Dynamite review on Thursday as well. And I've got some stuff together. I don't know why my voice decided to crack like that. I have some stuff together to do something that I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, which is just like reviewing like random matches that I've seen or that people will recommend. You know, people are like, you know, you should be, Warren, you should watch this match or so on and so forth. Or, you know, you hear some buzz, you know, because listen, this is where it all started. There's a couple of places where this started, right? But, you know, it all started a couple of weeks ago when I did on this show, when I reviewed the Maxine Dupree-Becky Lynch match that, you know, unironically, some people were calling match of the year, right? Which I think I was clear when I said, no, it is not. I thought, I thought that if you decided to, if you well, not that I decided, but I figured that, by doing that, I just give some of my thoughts, because that, that match was absolutely not anything close to match of the year. And I wanted to explain why, despite the fact that I thought it was an overall good match, which I thought had a better performance from Becky Lynch than anything else. But anyway, and I got some really good feedback on that. Like, I had people going, hey, that was a great review. I even saw, someone on Blue Sky talking about it at some point. I was like, oh, okay. And longtime listeners will know. It's like, where it's will know this about me, is that I like to talk about pro wrestling. I know, like, talking about pro wrestling means a lot of things, and there's a lot of things I like to talk about it, but about it, the business aspect, the chaos, the backstage dealings, and all that stuff. That's also part of the coverage, and also part of what I like. And also part of what I like is actually talking about wrestling matches, which is why I'm trying to put more and more stock in my reviews that I do for shows, because I think that's what I enjoy. In fact, it's more than I think. I know I enjoy doing those. That's always something I look forward to. Once a show is over, I'm like rubbing my hands together, putting together a few last notes, and whatnot, and then getting my mind together so that I can record typically the next day. But, it's just getting everything set straight in my brain so that I can do a great review kind of thing. So even if it's for a show that I didn't care for, like the New Japan show this weekend. So, and often I'm like, I realize that outside of the reviews, we don't talk a lot about, like, the last thing we talk about oftentimes on pro wrestling shows and podcasts and whatnot is talking about the wrestling. That's typically like the last thing that we talk about is like the wrestling itself. How did the match go? How were these performances, and so on and so forth. And I want to try and I feel like I strayed a little from that. I'm trying to bring it back. I tried doing the monthly lists, right? And they were fun to do. And I had a good time working with my editor Mike, but it turns out, like, the more I did them, I was like, this isn't how I want to go about doing it either. Like, this is not my voice. It feels a little too contrived. I want it to flow more natural, and so on and so forth. But you can't necessarily, anyway, like, if you're doing YouTube videos as opposed to streams and whatnot, or a podcast format, well, a YouTube video will attract more flies if you do it in a certain honeyed way, in a certain sugary way. But then I'm like, but this is not my voice. This is not how I want to do it. And it might be completely counterproductive to how YouTube viewers consume their things. But I prefer to be authentic to my voice, to how I feel I should be doing this kind of stuff. So all that to say, that very, very long introduction here was essentially to say that I've got some stuff together, and I want to, on occasion, like, talk about some matches that happened within the last couple of weeks, right? And give you my thoughts on them, whether they were good or bad, on matches that I saw just myself, or that I've heard some buzz about, whether because they were excellent or really bad, and sort of supplement that in. And I think that could be interesting. I think it could be a lot of fun, because listen, I want to be able to talk about wrestling more, like pro wrestling. I want to be able to do that. And unfortunately, it's not by always talking about WWE's record ticket sales that I'll be able to do that. But don't get me wrong, I still want to talk about WWE's record ticket sales, for instance. I still want to talk about the business aspect of it to provide the more, as much of a 360 vision of pro wrestling as possible, because there's a lot of times the creative is affected by what's happening in the business and vice versa. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. I hope that I hope you'll be along for that ride either, and as well, I should say. And like I said, I've got some things lined up. But here's the thing: if there are ever any matches that you're like, Warren, you should check this out, that you have some suggestions, some recommendations, and might be even some old matches. It'd be fun to also throw in some old matches and talk some old timey pro wrestling as well. Then it would be really cool if you reached out, if you posted it on Blue Sky or in the Discord. We've got a nice little MrWarrenHayes Show channel on the Discord just to talk about show goings on. So yeah, that would, I am very, very open to suggestions of things I should be watching and not missing, and so on and so forth. So man, all of this talk, and we're already like 45 minutes in. I think it's about time we get to the important stuff, which is, of course,
how you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let me
my
tell you a
timing
little
was
bit
super
about
off.
myself.
I'm sorry.
I'm a nunchuck master, and I represent NWA, Mountain State Wrestling.
Hoo-yah! Oh God, he was involved with Moonbeam City. Yeah, that was doomed to failure. Kristen Ashley, hello, darling. And welcome to the chat. It's nice to see you. Also, she's a member of the channel. Hi, no, so you're gonna have to try again on that one. You're gonna have to try. You're gonna have to give that one another shot. William Davis. Guess what releases next week? There's a good question that Kristen Ashley is setting down there for the chat. Is it another Taylor Swift album? No. It is the Women's 250 issue. The PWI Women's 250, which is happening. It's all done. It's printed. There hasn't been any, you cannot change. You cannot go back on things here now. It's all chiseled in granite, as far as making changes go. And that's coming out next week, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, because maybe you're new here, I am a member, as Kristen is as well. I'm a member of the Women's 250 Selection Committee, and there you go. I'll be all coming out next week. As I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, if memory serves me right, on last week's stream. I am extremely thrilled of the top three. I think the top three is absolutely fucking perfect. I really do believe it's perfect. So I'm excited. I hope that gets you as excited as I am, and that you're gonna get after me if you don't like it. Look, it's like I said last week, right? Well, and I think it's releasing. I believe, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, next Tuesday, right? Something like that. I honestly can't remember. Like, I'm being very sincere. I don't remember. I think it's releasing next Tuesday, the digital edition of the magazine. And so that means that next Thursday, not this week's stream, but next Thursday's stream, I'll be able to talk about it and take the brunt of your criticism. Yeah, okay. I think it's next Tuesday. So we won't be able to talk about it before then. That would be just unprofessional on my part to talk about the list without getting, the authorization from our editor-in-chief, Kevin McElvaney. That would be just unprofessional and wrong. But I will be back when we come next week. When we come back after the list, we'll talk about it a little bit, and I will be able to answer your questions and whatnot. But yeah, like the thing here, all things wrong with the list were Warren's idea. Yeah, see, this is what I wanted to say. Like I said last week, these lists are done via committee. Like there's a few of us who are on that committee. We were like, I think I counted 7 or 8 people, right? 7 people, I believe. 7 or 8. And sometimes you have to, sometimes there's battles you want to win, and sometimes you have to concede. Sometimes you can't win everything. You can't go after everything, because then people go, oh, it's all Warren's list, and then you're not invited back, right? It's a cooperative effort. You listen to people, and there's some things that just happen on that list where it's like, okay, look, I got this. I will relent on this. It's politics, baby. That's how it goes. So you go in strong on the things that you really feel strongly about. And then there's other things where you're like, but you sort of concede. You're just like, No, the 250 this year is not my list, okay? It is not my list. If I wanted to do my list, I would do my list. Tony Mercedes Fukujin death. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's your number 3 right there. See, a perfect 3 right there. All right. So enough talking about that. Enough's enough. But that's coming out next week. I did watch some wrestling this weekend. Surprise, surprise. Like I said, I watched the New Japan show. I caught up on a bunch of things for the little reviews that I want to do. But hey, you know what? It's super. The DPW Deadlock Pro super card super show it's super card. I think, what do they call it? Shoot, it's super something. Why is it? I can't remember for some reason. That was a really good show. I thought that was a really, really fun show and had some really great matches on it. It's like, what, 3 hours? Something to that effect. It comes highly recommended. I think everyone should go check it out. Then there was also Collision on the show, right? On the docket, which I ended up watching. I ended up watching Collision as well. Like I mostly do most of the time. Not always, I'll be honest. I don't always catch the entire collisions. But I did on this one here. Wanted to see how things went. And yeah, we got the Bandito Mascara Dorada 2 main event. They were calling it they gave it the number 2, despite the fact that the number 1 was in, the first encounter was in CMLL. So I thought that was pretty cool. I saw a lot of effusive praise for this match. And I was really into it. I was very, very excited because I didn't watch it live. I watched it on Sunday. I watched it yesterday. And I thought it was really good. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a really, really good match. Excuse me. But I thought their first match together was miles above what they did here. I thought this was good, but definitely not great. I think I think there's a lot of compensation here because there's stuff that happened in here that often that there's things that happened in this match that are very akin to Bandito, that are just like Bandito's little idiosyncrasies, which I usually don't have an issue with, right? There's like, I don't want to call, it's not that he's sloppy, but I feel like he overthinks his setups, or he overthinks things, and sometimes it just it causes things to fall apart. And I'm putting this on Bandito and not on Mascara Dorada. On some, and I think, you know, you've got a couple of spots in mind from that match where you're like, oh yeah, that was a little clunky. That didn't look great. That didn't flow all that great. And I'm putting it a lot on Bandito because Mascara Dorada does not suffer from not being fluid. Dorada he's an exceptionally talented pro wrestler who, you know, just goes with what he knows and isn't relying on these incessant spots where you have to set up and where things have to be set up in a very specific way for them to go off. I don't mind that there's a couple of those in a match once in a while. Don't get me wrong. Like I think that, you know, it can often add to drama when done well. You know, can add some tension, and especially when the payoff of the move is spectacular, where you're like, all right, this ruled. You know, so there's a lot of things that you can excuse, but Bandito, sometimes it's just like for, you know, regular stuff, and then sometimes he's just like smooth as butter, and you're like, this guy's great. You know, it's like, why can he be always like this? What is the thing that happens sometimes with Bandito where he's just like, he hovers between being super duper smooth and then, you know, getting, you know, having the hiccups, having the wrestling hiccups, I guess you'd call it. I didn't hate the match. And I want to make this clear, because I know there's this weird buildup of Bandito dislike out there, and I don't dislike Bandito. I like him tons. I think he's great. I think he's having a career run right now, quite frankly, and that's probably, you know, and we're probably just like scratching the surface on top of that. I like Bandito a lot. You know, so I don't want to give the impression that I'm like piling on and saying, oh, he's overrated. I don't think he's overrated. You know, I think, you know, I don't think he's overrated, but I think we turn a blind eye to a lot of stuff because we like him so much, kind of thing. I think it's different than being overrated. He's fantastic. What was the point I was trying to make here? I segued. I was starting to make a point. I was like, wait, let me make sure that everyone understands that I like him, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, but this match I didn't think was great. I didn't think this was a great match. I think it was a very, very good match. I preferred the match they had months ago. He and Dorada, they had a legitimately excellent match. This one is very good main event for Collision. And look, I thought it was good enough. I thought it was so good. I thought it should have started off the show. They should have started off the show with that shit. You know, like in this world of you know, ratings and whatnot, right? In this world of television ratings and media deals, and the television ratings, you know, will eventually become dollars for your media deals. I think this idea of, you know, world championship, like your top stars have to be in the main event and whatnot, I think it's bullshit. I don't think they should do. I don't think we should do that. We as wrestling fans have to sort of change our perception in that regard. A pay-per-view, that's something else. But you know, like you know, the final quarter hour of any wrestling show is typically one of the least watched QHs of the in wrestling, right? The overruns have a tendency to help out, so I can understand that sometimes if you overrun, you want to have some of your top stars in there. I can understand, but you don't overrun on Collision, right? So I don't know why we ended up with these two guys being in the main event. They could have been Honestly, they should have opened the show. I think that's how good this match was. I think it would have been an electric start to the show. No one would have been upset. More people would have seen it. That ultimately, like, more people would have seen Mascara Dorada and Bandito going for it, as opposed to 10 p.m. or a quarter to 10 on a Saturday night. That's when your ratings start to crater. So, I think we just need to. I think we need to shift our expectations on that level where it's like, oh, the main events, like, who cares about the main events when it comes to the weekly shows? Just put your top acts and your best stars and the people that you want people to get attached to and see in the prime quarter hours, and never mind this phony baloney main event stuff. It's like, anyway, I don't know. That's just my thoughts. But a good match. I thought it was solid. I thought it was a super, super good match. But I'm falling short from great. I don't know. I don't know. We've got 21 Plex needs to go in the chat. I mean, that's something. I know exactly where that comes from. I know exactly who's championing that. And I can't say I disagree. I've never liked the 21 Plex, even when Bandito was, still in Ring of Honor back in the day. Like, this is a dumb move. I don't understand it. Like, moratorium on all of these moves where wrestlers have to be in these unnatural positions for a long time. Like the 619, the tiger feint kick. I have said on the show I've started, I should say, a couple of weeks ago, calling for a moratorium on the tiger feint kick because no one fucking does it right. No one does it right. They either botch it or it looks, soft as a winter jacket made of goose down. It's like it's soft. It's the softest move. I hate it. I can't stand it. So yeah, if you want to throw the 21 Plex into the pile, please be my guest. I also kind of think it's dumb. I think he has better finishers. Mr. Antox, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you as well. And welcome, also a member of the channel. It is great to see you too. Who are these Bandito haters and why are they not in jail? Because Bandito will go break them out because he's a working man's hero. I don't know. Whoever is out there saying this man is overrated is someone whose opinions should be sought after. Oh, sometimes you just stumble upon a couple of bad takes and you move along. And then you're like, I'm going to make a note of this for my podcast. I do feel he's on the way to being overrated with the groundswell of support he's getting. Sure. AEW World Champion Bandito, hold your horses. See, this is a sincere, dangerous path that we might be going down. And I agree with you, DGMC. He might be very close to being overrated because his supporters are so adamant and valiant in that regard, where it's like, no, calm down a little bit. Like, this is, he it's not the second coming of Frank Gotch here. He's not Will Ospreay. How about that? How about that for a hot take? And that eventually can shift the tides and play against him down the line. I completely agree with that. Zach McGibbon, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I hope you are well as well. Code Blue is incredibly unnatural. Again, like, as long if they're Code Reds and whatnot, it depends. Like, I feel like a Code Red or a Code Blue or whatever, a Pop Rocks, you can get that shit off, but don't wait around with your opponent like being bent over for all that time. Like, there's ways of doing it. Winter jackets made of Labubus. That finally a good use for Labubus. Always hate the moves where the guy is dangling on the top rope for an extended period of time. I hate it. I hate it tremendously. I hate it with a passion. I think it's dumb. I've always hated it. Pop Rocks is such a dumb name for finish. Oh, but it's cute. It's candy. Perfect segue. The new Alani New drink is amazing, and someone should insist Warren Hayes buys it all for me. Okay, thanks. All right. All right. Right. I know we don't talk WWE, but I'm glad they turned Jade Cargill heel. It fits her character better. Hope she brings the infamous catchphrase, cut the shit trips. She's not doing that on the PG-13 environment that is WWE. Yeah, I heard they turned her heel. I mean, good for her. Good for her. I mean, you got to try something with Jade, right? You got to give it your all. Like she won the women's championship, or one of their women's championships this weekend, right? At the Saturday night's main event thing, with the incredible standing neck breaker botch by Jey Uso, who does a full 360 rotation. Just not full 360, a 180 rotation. It's just beautiful stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. You got to try her now, because she's clearly not going to get better. She's clearly not going to improve. What you see is what you get with her. So might as well give her the push. Good for her. Yeah. But here's the thing. Like, one last thing, because again, we don't necessarily get into the weeds with WWE as much anymore here. But the women's titles have always been booked with this idea of everyone gets a turn, right? That's just how it goes. And it's the same thing. And that's how WWE fans perceive these titles as well, is that everyone gets a turn. You have to be like really like the most unpushed, undesired commodity in the division to not get a run with the title. If you show a modicum of charisma, of proper in-ring work, you're going to get your shot at the title. You're going to get to wear the title. Doesn't matter who you are. Like, it's really a revolving door. It's just like, okay, next one to walk through. Because they know, and this is sad, that their women's division doesn't drive any substantial business metrics, doesn't drive any highfalutin ratings, doesn't push these incredible ratings or merch sales. Excuse me, I just talked about ratings. They know where their butter's bred. They know where the bread is buttered, I should say. They know where the bread is buttered. And too, because of that WrestleMania Las Vegas poster they put out, that's where the money is for them. Those are the stars. Those four guys, plus Paul Heyman and Paul Levesque, that's where their money is. They didn't put any women there, and there was no error here. It wasn't a mistake. There were no women on the poster because not one of them is driving business. They're just one part of the show. So when you end up with the, when it comes to championships in WWE for the women's division, it's just like, okay, well, whose turn is it? Who's up next? Who should we try next? Everyone gets a shot. You just, again, all you have to do is be moderately good at what you're doing, and you will get a turn. You will be a WWE Women's Championship, and no one really cares. That's the thing, is that no one really cares because I don't want to say it never, but right now it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. And whatever they do have, true to form, top tier women superstars, they don't know what to do with them. They didn't know what to do with Becky Lynch. They didn't know what to do with Sasha Banks. They didn't know what to do with Bianca Belair. Now you've all got these middling levels of women doing their own thing, doing their things, and no one's standing apart. There's no one that's breaking away from the pack and really creating some buzz. It's funny because everyone's like, Naomi. It's like, oh, she's so great. Like and I feel like if you go back to watch the Becky Lynch rise, there's no way you can look at the Naomi thing and say to yourself, oh yeah, this is on the same level. Or even the Bianca Belair rise that led to the WrestleMania match with Sasha Banks. What was it, like 4 years ago at this point? Something to that effect, 5 years ago? I can't quite remember. Like, Bianca was red fucking hot. Becky was red fucking hot. Who is red fucking hot in the women's division in WWE right now? And I'm talking red fucking hot. That was a rhetorical question, but thank you for answering. Yeah, cut the shit turns into cut the crap. They have to give her like something, like a head point. I watched the, oh my God. I watched the Mayu Io Shirai match in Marigold, which, spoiler alert for my little review segment, I thought was very good. I actually thought they had a great match. I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was very, very good. But now, like, Io Shirai is now, she's in Japan. She's not even surrounded by her WWE doofuses, and she's still doing the head bobble nonsense. I'm like, oh, cringe. She's even, anyway. Jay doesn't have the in-ring skill to carry the top divisional title. But again, like I said, I agree. But then again, it's like, it doesn't matter. So just like I said, like it doesn't matter if she does or she does not, because the title's meaningless right now. The title's meaningless, and it's not elevating anyone, and they're not elevating any women. I don't know if you noticed. Didn't even have Maxine in a cute little bunny outfit serving Heyman drinks. $50 American says that was pitched at one of Paul Levesque's executive boardroom creative meetings. 100% that was pitched, though. Apparently they don't know what to do with AJ Lee. Where's she been? Sitting at home collecting a paycheck, watching her man win the second biggest prize in the land, coming up second as usual in WWE with their dog. Same with Tiffy. How is she connected over the past year? She hasn't. That's not a character. It's just a push with a prop belt attached to it. Like, I know a lot of people say, what's her name? Mariah May. What's her new name? Blake Monroe. They say Blake Monroe's character is basically Tiffany Stratton. And as far as I understand, Tiffany Stratton isn't even doing the Barbie doll thing anymore, right? She's not doing the. Remember when she first came in? Remember she was a daddy's girl. You remember that? It's like, daddy's not, daddy buys me all these cars and all these shoes and all that, and then she dropped that, and then she was just like Barbie, because the Barbie movie came out. Now she's just, like you said, it's just a push and the belt as a prop. She still has potential, but Bart the poop. Same goes for Julia. She's from NXT and she used to wrestle in Japan. Who is she as a character, and why should anyone in general care? I agree. And we've talked about this before, but Julia has been absolutely 100% neutered in WWE. Everything that made this woman fearsome and interesting in Japan, she cannot do in WWE. She cannot shoot headbutts. She cannot drop other women on their heads. She can't wrestle that way, because Julia's aura was always one of danger. That this woman will do whatever it takes to hurt you, harm you. You felt like she was like, you never knew if she was going to come in here and work the match or shoot it, right? That was her aura. So now she ends up, having done this one gimmick, this one style of doing things all her life, and then now she's told by WWE, well, you can't do this anymore, you can't do that. Shoot headbutts, no, we can't do that. So she's just coming across as super lame because she has been neutered. But she'd be spayed, right? You neuter a dog, like a male dog, and you spay a female, right? So she'd be, you can't neuter Julia, but I'm sure you all understood the analogy nonetheless. I'm sure you all understood that nonetheless. Io did so great in that match. Fuck, Mayu's amazing. Talk about her. I think Mayu was particularly great in this match, and she dragged it out of her. If it had been up to Io, I think Io would have done, a WWE style match, but Mayu was not having any of that. Mayu was great. Mayu was great. In fact, you know what? This was a pretty good Marigold show. Overall, that was pretty good. Blake is basically trying to be Sabrina Carpenter and failing. Now she's just tweeting in hopes Sabrina Carpenter acknowledges her existence. Really? That's very sad. That's very sad. Because if there was one wrestler or two wrestlers who had the opportunity to get it back onto Sabrina Carpenter's radar after she becoming so successful, it would have been the Jacksons. Am I right? To be fair, I also do that. WWE passes the Barbie gimmick from woman to woman like it's Thaler Park. Yeah, and it's much less litigious too. All right. So all of that being said is that those are kind of like the highlights of what I watched. And throughout all of that, I didn't have time to watch CMLL, but look, we're going to talk about CMLL on the little review thing. I don't know when I'm recording it. I want to keep this as loose as possible. So, I'll figure it out. At some point, the members will wake up. Members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel will wake up, and there'll be a nice little new video for them. And they'll be like, oh, that's for us. And then they'll listen to it and they'll be happy. Essentially. All right, let's go to the board. This is that's the old docket, Warren. This is tonight's docket right here. We're gonna get into. Today I went on the Blue Sky and I posted a tweet with the caption. woof. But not like a dog barking where it's like woof, 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 woof. More like, woof. One of these things that, and you're releasing some some exasperation, right? Woof, woof, as opposed to woof, 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 as in it's not a good sign. Oofa would also be a good one. Fuyo would also be very good. This is what I posted for those of you with the benefit of video right now. A caption from a screen cap, I should say, from cagematch.net about WWE Friday Night SmackDown that occurred just a couple of days ago, the Halloween edition from Salt Lake City in the Delta Center. The recorded attendance from Cage Match here says that there was 4,226 people in the building. Now that to me for WWE is a very big woof, because that's an extremely low number for the company. That's a very, very low number. To give you perspective, they were in this very same building a year ago, right? And they drew like over 11,000 people in the building. So it's a huge discrepancy. That is a tremendous drop. It's not a discrepancy, it's a drop. So, yeah, thought it read 4 people because of the dot. Yeah, those wacky Europeans who, instead of putting spaces, but to separate their thousands, they put periods, and then you think they're decimals. So, the Euros, man, they're all over the place. They have some good ideas sometimes, but then other times they just create confusion. So, yeah, that got a big oof out of me, or a woof. Because here's the thing, the thing ultimately is that we have observed a softening of business for WWE. Now, I want to temper this so that you don't go run off and say, put it out into the press that Warren Hayes has said that WWE's business is in the tank. That's not what I'm saying. Or that its business is soft. That is also not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that there has been a perceivable softening of business year over year when it comes to their live attendance. Most of their, thank you, Ikaru, but you really didn't have to. Please don't. And Ross, nice to see you, man, member of the channel. Yeah, nothing says Halloween like in Utah. Yeah, see, I had people, like, I saw some arguments about this, and people were saying, well, it was Halloween. I'm like, Utah and Halloween. It doesn't matter. Like, it really, I don't think Halloween is not Christmas. Jesus Christ. It's not like December 25th. Like, let's not be stupid here. And even on December 25th, like, people are rushing out to go do shit. They want to go to the movies or whatnot. Anyway, look, times have changed, is what I'm saying. I don't think Halloween was a reason for people to not go. Regardless, the point I had started to make is that the business, their live attendance hasn't been as strong. It's absolutely strong overall. It's not as strong as it was, and we are seeing more and more of these destinations attracting less and less people. Now, there are news. There are tons of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reasons. There are tons of reasons that you could speculate on, that you could theorize on, and one of them, I think, which is a very legitimate question to ask yourselves in these circumstances is ticket price. Look, I know in the United States right now, the economy's not great. People are having a rough time while, the president makes it, renovates a bathroom with, entirely made out of marble for himself, right? So meanwhile, people are finding it a little rough. You got to make some hard decisions. So while that is happening, TKO apparently, according to data put together by Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics, seems to point that TKO is doubling the price of tickets since the TKO merger. So people saying that it is out of price to go to WWE shows now are absolutely being correct. I want to take a little bit of time here out of the day to read Brandon's article here so that we can get the gist of it. Average domestic ticket prices for WWE's weekly main roster television events have roughly doubled since the TKO merger that combined WWE and UFC closed in September 2023 in real 2025 dollars. Data obtained by Polestar and analyzed by WrestleNomics shows the line breaks sharply upward beginning in 2024 and continuing in 2025 after more gradual increases throughout the 2010s and 2020s. Polestar doesn't capture every Raw and SmackDown. There are more than 100 per year, but the sample is substantial. 27 domestic events so far in 2025 and around 50 in recent pre-pandemic years. So for those of you with the benefit of video right now, this is the graphic with the surge of ticket prices that has occurred since 2024. So it's again, incredible graph work once again by Brandon that we can sink our teeth into here. So you can see here, look, 1999, $21 in real time. We have both numbers here. In 1999, product is still hot, maybe not as hot as it was in 96, 97, 98, but still running still running really good. $21 is what you would spend real time to go see WWE back then. That equates, adjusted for inflation, it equates to $41. Still a fucking cheap, this is a cheap ticket. And this is average, right? So we'll stick with the adjusted for inflation numbers moving forward unless we need it, right? $50 in 2000, 2001, $56. Then it spikes to $67 in 2002. Then comes back down to $50, all the way down to $47 and so on and so forth. As you can tell, like Vince was trying stuff out and was like, look, we're not drawing all these huge houses, so we got to stay around the $50 mark, right? That's pretty much where everything is sort of hanging around. The next lowest point after 2004, which was at $47, the next lowest point, it happens in 2009 at $48. Then it starts slowly going back up, $50, $51, 51 again, 52, 53. We're in 2015 and it's still $57 average to go see a WWE show. In 2021, it was $62. Then it drops back down to $58 in 2022. Then in 2023, just before the merger, WWE fans are spending $60 on average to go see a show, a WWE show. Then it spikes to to $75 on average in 2024, and now it's at $118. Right now, in the year of our Lord 2025, this is how much it costs to go see World Wrestling Entertainment and its superstars. Now, the natural question, this is how Brandon continues here. The natural question is whether this dramatic rise in prices is all that different from the wider live event business, which is fair. The short answer is yes, but by scale. Polestar posted an article at the end of 2024 indicating that for touring acts in North America, average ticket prices were essentially flat from 2023 to 2024. Our analysis of Live Nation's investor disclosures supports a similar conclusion, with prices largely stable when adjusted to inflation. So you can see pretty much, once adjusted to inflation, the prices are still relatively the same. $144 in 2023, $140 in 2025 for touring acts in the United States. But what about sports? NFL ticket prices slightly declined this season from last year, according to The Athletic. The increase in NBA prices has been significant. In the 2023-2024 season, the average price was $118 before increasing 21% to $144 in the 2024-2025 season. That's moderate compared to the 60% increase for WWE from 2024 to so far in 2025. It's a different question, though, to ask whether WWE tickets were previously underpriced, and it's possible they were. Some might assume the increase reflects more international televised events skewing the sample, but that's not the case here. This analysis excluded all international events and focused just on events in WWE's domestic markets in the US and Canada. So you see, we're not even getting the adjustments for stuff that happened in Paris, in the UK. We're definitely not getting any information from the Saudi stuff. Like, there's nothing included overseas. This is strictly based in the United States. You know, shows being held in the United States as opposed to anywhere else. US and Canada, I should say. Still, the growing number of international tapings and the steep decline in non-televised house shows mean fewer domestic events than ever, which might push domestic prices higher by creating scarcity. Now, we know that this is a tactic that they employed. We absolutely 100% know this is a tactic they employed because we saw it coming. We knew that's what it was when they started reducing. They even said it themselves. I don't remember if it was at an investor call or during an interview. I don't remember which one, whether it was Shapiro or Emmanuel. I don't quite remember. But they were saying, you know, we're reducing the number of house shows so as to be able to create destination events in other cities, which essentially is jargon for, well, we're doing less events so that the events that we do have will draw more people from the outside and will be more willing to pay big money, knowing that the show won't go to their smaller market. TKO president and COO Mark Shapiro, who began overseeing WWE when the merger finalized, has been clear that raising ticket prices isn't an accident, it's a mission. At a Goldman Sachs conference in September, he said WWE, quote, is not where UFC is yet on ticket yield, unquote, and that there's, quote, work to do, unquote. He added that Vince McMahon, quote, was primarily pricing tickets for families and wasn't totally focused on maxing the opportunity, unquote. Shapiro has made clear he sees higher ticket prices as part of a broader effort to expand WWE's profitability. He connected the company's latest increase in profits, the margin expansion, to higher ticket yield and site fees, and said there's still more room to go. So essentially, if you thought that you were done paying big money for WWE tickets, you're wrong. Television viewership data from 2023 affirmed the conventional belief that household income for the average wrestling fan is well below the median in the US, but somehow demand, so far, is unfazed. For those suggesting that WWE's surge in consumer business, visible at least since Vince McMahon backed off from creative control in 2022, has cooled this year, the numbers in live events don't support that. Despite record high prices, more people are attending Raw and SmackDown events, not fewer. See, isn't that interesting? Because we just saw, no. There we go. Because we just saw data that sort of questioned that, right? We just saw an event where it's like, okay, well, is stuff starting to cool off? And we have noticed like there's been a slight downward trend, but I guess what Brandon is saying here through his data, I guess the way we can interpret it is that maybe some venues, some cities aren't drawing as strongly as they should or as they once did. And maybe other venues are just drawing a lot more. Maybe other venues are just compensating for the loss of live attendance, and everything is sort of not even balancing out. It's still making things grow. Then again, running 2 nights SummerSlam, 2 stadium shows back to back, that will also impact your final totals and whatnot. Anyway. WrestleTix estimates, show tickets distributed for these events are having their third consecutive year of growth, averaging about 11,500 per show so far, up from about 11,000 even in 2024. Pollstar's less complete data on actual sales aligns closely with that. The 27 domestic events sampled this year averaged just over 12,200 tickets sold, up from 11,400 in 2024, 9,800 in 2023, and 7,800 in both 2022 and 2021. Even narrowing to the most recent quarter from June to September, the pattern holds steady. Raw and SmackDown events averaged 10,847 tickets distributed, according to WrestleTix, almost identical to the same quarter last year, 10,849. All this while average ticket price climbed from around $75 to $118. Yes, there's a little comparison here with AEW that we can check out real quick. AEW's domestic ticket prices have gone in the opposite direction, adjusting for inflation. In 2025 dollars, the average AEW TV event went from $58 in 2022 to $49 in 2025. Attendance has also declined over the same time period based on WrestleTix data. It's worth noting that the 2025 figure is based on only 6 samples, far fewer than in previous years. And given evidence that AEW recently sought to include a confidentiality clause in a venue contract, it's reasonable to question whether similar restrictions are more common across the company's deals, potentially limiting Pollstar's access to data from AEW events at a time when attendance for Tony Khan's promotion has been trending downward. As you can see right here, there has been a significant drop over the past 6 years. And then we have the example for concert revenue. Meanwhile, Live Nation's calculated average ticketing fee, derived from dividing ticket revenue by the number of fee-bearing tickets sold, has hovered around $9, inflation adjusted since 2022. The ability suggests price stability across events that cooperate with the Ticketmaster parent, assuming changes in fees would be proportionate to the underlying ticket price. Live Nation's own concert ticket prices, adjusted for inflation, have also been flat, bouncing between $122 and $136 in 2025 dollars. So it's a lot of data, a lot of information to absorb here, but it's very interesting. I thought this was extremely fascinating, just to get a clear view of how ticket prices are going. And I don't have much to add to the analysis here. I mean, and I mean, you can draw your own conclusions as well. It's very, very clear that WWE wants to gouge as much as they can out of their fan base to get to these shows. I don't know how people are paying for these tickets. Quite frankly, are they, going into credit card debt? Are they, borrowing money? Are they are they setting up heists, jewel heists in famous museums across the world? I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know how it goes. But the WWE clearly wants to continue down that path and squeeze as much money as they can out of their fans. Here's something. I was chatting about this with a European friend of mine, a pal of mine from Belgium, just last week. We were talking about how ridiculous the prices are to go to a European football match, a soccer game. And he was, he was telling me, it's like, the one thing that we all have to remember is that soccer has always been like the working man's sport. It's always been, its roots come out of poverty, right? All you needed to play soccer was a ball, something you could kick around, and then your goals was whatever the fuck. Tin cans, hail bays, hail bays, hay bales. Look at me go. It could be just any chairs, just a couple of trees, well positioned. It could be like anything could be the goalpost. And he, these events, the soccer matches would be exactly that. It's like the weekend, the guys working hard all week would then go to, they'd go to the soccer game, they'd pay a few dollars and then they'd see their team play, it'd be their team. And look, it's just, greed and corporate structures have taken over sport, and it's just not the same anymore. It's not, the game is not intended for the people who made the sport what it was. It's not intended for them anymore. You can't be poor and go to these games anymore, right? You can't be struggling financially and just be able to go enjoy, a nice soccer game every weekend because now it's so elite. It's a premium product and you're like, this is preposterous. And it's the same thing with pro wrestling. Like when we've been talking about, ticket prices over the past month or so on occasion on stream, I would often say, this is ridiculous. This is pro wrestling. No one should be paying these prices, these exorbitant prices to go watch pro wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Like something that is intrinsically fixed, where it is absolutely designed to cater to the lowest common denominator. Back in the day, that was the thing. You'd be able to fake it enough so that the dumbest people who go there would drop their $10 for a seat and then come back the week after and to see some more, right? That was the whole gist of it. Now it's like it's like the kayfabe, not the kayfabe, but it's like the con is reversed, where it's like we're going to sucker you out of all of your money to come see our play fighting. And that to me is, it's mind-blowingly ridiculous. What are you paying to see a pro wrestling show at $118 a ticket? What are you paying? Because it's not all the wrestler's salary. Trust me. You're paying for the production, you're paying for the fireworks, you're paying for the big screens, you're paying for, the TV equipment. You're paying for all this shit. And it's like, it's just pro wrestling. I'm not saying pro wrestling shouldn't be on national TV. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think we've absolutely lost the plot as to what pro wrestling really is. And I don't think it's not this spectacle. It's not this grand thing. It's two people in a ring, making us believe that they are in a fight. That's what it's supposed to be. Everything around it is extraneous, and ultimately you should not be paying for that. But you are. You are paying for that. It's a preposterous situation that going to see a pro wrestling match costs so much money. You tell that to any promoter in the 1980s, and while they'd be very envious, they'd probably all be laughing their asses off. They'd be saying, "No fucking way are people going to be laying down an entire month's of their house's mortgage to come watch a wrestling show." But yet here we are. But I guess to really close the point here, I know the AEW tickets are much friendlier priced, it's much nicer, right? But don't ever think that if Tony Khan was in the same situation, he would not do this. Maybe not as bold as what's going on here, within 2 years, because that's insane. But if you don't think Tony Khan wouldn't be excited at the idea of being able to sell the tickets to his wrestling show for premium prices, I got news for you. He's not in business to create a product out of just the generosity of his heart. He sees an opportunity. He sees that a chance to create something. Don't get me wrong, to bring something into the world that's his, but he's seeing it as a business opportunity as well. And he wants to maximize the revenues and make as much money as he can. That's just how it goes. And yes, even though he is a billionaire and always has, unfathomable amounts of money at his disposal, there's one thing billionaires really, really love is making more money. They just love making more money. So, let's say AEW business picks up, and in a couple of years we're back around to where we were in 2019. Because look, Tony Khan would love to be back in these positions here. $66, median $58. He'd love that. What are we talking about? Instead of being under $50 so far in 2025. Of course, he'd love to be back into that position. And if he will take that opportunity if he ever has it. We just can't be naive about it. we're shaking our fist at TKO. Don't get me wrong. This spike is preposterous. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. But as Brandon pointed out in his article, people are still going. And they're complaining that it's expensive. But they're still going to WrestleMania. They're still going to go to the Royal Rumble. They're still going to go to the SmackDown taping when it comes around town. But they'll complain about the price, but they'll still go. I don't know, man. I don't know where they're getting the money from. Anywho, let's see. Echo Flair, bonsoir, cher ami. Comment ça va? It's nice to see you and welcome. AEW will hike the ticket prices on a much slower and realistic pace. As long as it's much cheaper than WWE, they're okay, I think. I mean, we can only speculate, but look, if ticket scarcity becomes a thing for AEW as well, and the product becomes hot again, those prices are going to get jacked. That's all there is to it. Boris, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. WWE fans had to rob the Louvre to afford tickets. Yeah, pretty much. Joseph with it, nice to see you as well. Welcome to the chat. It's been a while. Good to see you back. I just hope Ari Emanuel can feed his kids. Yeah, I mean, whenever you scalp a WWE ticket, you're taking money off of Ari Emanuel's plate. You're taking money off of his dinner table. On Collision this weekend, which again, as we mentioned earlier in the stream, but if you're listening to this on the podcast, you weren't on stream and you missed it. I talked about stuff happening on Collision. Talked about the match between Bandito and Mascara Dorada, which I thought was very good. Not great, but very good. Few things happening on the show. And one of the things that happened was that AEW has announced finally the lineups for the Blood and Guts matches, plural. They're happening this week, right? This upcoming, next week. No, this week. Next week. November 12th. That are happening next week. On November 12th in Greensboro, North Carolina, at the First Horizon Coliseum. And yeah, look, they've got the teams ready. They announced the men's teams, or they announced the men's match on Dynamite last Wednesday, and they announced the women's Blood and Guts participants on Collision this past Saturday. Now, I want to preface this by saying I like the Blood and Guts matches. I like me a good War Games match. I don't know. I just like it. They're not all good. In fact, most of them are not. But you can go back and you can find some. And more often than not, I'm entertained by them. I think they're pretty good. When they get too cutesy, I get annoyed. But this is where am I going to be annoyed here and whatnot? I don't know if I'm going to be annoyed, because as it stands right now, like specifically here, it's kind of like what I talked about on the review, on the Dynamite review this week. I am not like hyped for it. I'm not stoked for it. I'm not excited. I don't know. I just don't know where if I'm into it. And I'm probably leaning towards no. I'll tell you why in a second or two. Let's take a look at the participants. Who do we got here in the men's Blood and Guts match? We've got Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong, and Darby Allin versus the Death Riders. Mox, Claudio, Yuta, Garcia, Pac. That's what we got on the men's side. On the women's side, we've got Mercedes Moné, Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir, Tekla, Julia Hart, and Skablu versus Chris Statlander, Toni Storm, Harley Cameron, Jamie Hayter, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale. So, my main principal quibble with all of this is that, like I mentioned on the Dynamite review, neither of these matches feel earned. Like, I don't feel like either blood and guts match here is, this big collision between feuding parties that, it went so far and there's no way to settle their differences. And the only way we can do this in blood and guts. I'm not particularly interested in these things here, in either of these setups. The conglomeration, God bless them. A lot of wrestlers I like, associated with the conglomeration. In fact, all of them, come to think of it. They're all mid-carders. They're all just like mid-card people, and most of them can't pick up any wins when they're on TV. Roderick Strong is always losing. Kyle O'Reilly, right up until he started, in his little series with John Moxley, he'd be taking L's all the time. How many times has Orange Cassidy won since he's returned in singles matches? So on and so forth. Mark Briscoe, that's part of his personality, can't win the big one. So they are not in a position where I feel like they can go in and, kick some heads in and crush some people and have an actual chance to win here. I sort of shrug. I go, well, they're not the job squad, but they're not far removed. They're like twice removed. That's pretty much it. And the Death Riders, well, I mean, maybe outside of Darby Allin, right? I think Darby Allin, in case we're clear here, because I was talking about the conglomeration, there's Darby Allin who is the only exception here. But then again, Darby Allin, not necessarily known for winning all that often either. He's not a guy who walks around with this incredible win-loss record. And the Death Riders, well, it's the Death Riders. It's fine. These are people that I'm led to believe are head splitters, and it's fine. They belong in this type of scenario. But I look at this setup here, and I'm like, well, they're just gonna crush these jabronis, and why are we settling this in blood and guts? What are we settling in blood and guts? It doesn't feel like this conglomeration Death Riders thing has never felt like a real deal feud. It mostly felt like, a distraction for John Moxley on the way to bigger things. It's only recently with the Kyle O'Reilly stuff and the story that they're telling with Mox now that Mox, quit, and now he's afraid to give up. He's afraid to be in a position where he's going to quit again. So, he's doing his best not to let that happen. And, outside of that little stuff, that little thing there, it's always been like, matches happening, and there's you don't really feel any hatred. There's nothing that justifies having the conglomeration and Darby Allin head into the ring with the Death Riders to settle any scores. And I thought this score between Mox and Darby was pretty much settled and done at the pay-per-view, at the Wrestle Dream, when he was fucking being drowned, Darby Allin was. Like, to me, that comes across as our issues are done. This feud is over, right? But no, we're still circling around that, and we're bringing that into Blood and Guts. I don't know. I think it's even worse for the women. I think Tony Khan has done a good job overall. Excuse me. Building the women's division to be tag team friendly, to lead us into the tag team tournaments scenario. I think he's done a good job with that, over for months now. Starting off clearly with Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne, but then having like little groups and tag teams and associations being all mushed together and having people work with each other and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, he did a good job for that, but he didn't do a good job creating a blood feud in his division between all of these women. I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't feel the urgent need to settle this in Blood and Guts, other than to quell the criticisms online that Tony Khan gets by a very loud subset of AEW fans, which are requesting a women's Blood and Guts. But it's like, they're requesting it and they're going to get it, but there's nothing that makes this feel special. Like, let's take a look at the participants once again, right? Like, there's some oddities in here, right? There's some oddities because you're going to get Chris Statlander in this match, who is going to be working with, Toni Storm, who, she basically has crushed Toni Storm's psyche since she had her lose the title, right? Since she lost the title, Toni Storm has been depressed, right? And Statlander also has issues with Will Nightingale. Those are still not cleared up, but yet these people are all going to be on the same side. They're all going to be on the same team. And doesn't that just like sound a little off? Doesn't that quite it doesn't quite jive, right? Because they've done a better job maintaining the tension between Stat and Nightingale than they have putting all of this blood and guts, this women's blood and guts together. It really does feel slapdash. It really does feel like Tony Khan is like, well, this is what the people want and I'm going to give it to them. There's just no visceral attachment. There's nothing that makes you go, fuck yeah, this has to be settled in a blood and guts. Now it just feels like a match type that, oh, well, you know what it is? You know what it's starting to feel like? And I believe we talked about it last year. And I think it's becoming, I think this is the main trapping here. The blood and guts match is kind of becoming the annual thing where once we circle around this time of year, it's time to lay in with the blood and guts. We got to bring out the match type, kind of like what WWE used to do with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Instead of having Hell in a Cell show up to mark the end of a feud, right? Instead of it being a big blow off for a feud, you would have a pay-per-view where it's just Hell in the Cell matches. And you're like, okay, not just one, you'd have a couple, you'd have two, On some occasions, there's been 3. But, you know, it's like, and that ends up removing the luster out of a Hell in a Cell match, when everyone got tired of it. It's like, well, Hell in a Cell matches don't mean anything anymore. And I kind of feel like this is the type of situation where we're at again, where it's like, we have to put on this match. We have to do it. But we don't have any really good reasons for this to happen. There's nothing visceral. There's no hatred. There's nothing really gritty about it. There's nothing really like, oh, fuck yeah. It's almost as if it's almost as if we skip this year, it'd be a problem. I'm like, no, it really wouldn't. Who cares if we skip this year? It will make people more excited for next year, and maybe next year we'll have some actual real blood feuds that will be settled in the middle of the ring, or the rings in the cage, 1, 2, 3. Well, not 1, 2, 3, pass out, or you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Because I think like last year, like the past few years, the blood and guts matches, they were in the spring, right? Now we're in the fall. Which still adds to the credence, where it's like, you really could have skipped it. You really could have skipped over this. It's not all that exciting. You really could have just skipped the year and we would have been fine. Or not give us both matches. And this is my very, very hot take, which is probably not going to be super popular, but we don't need 2 blood and guts matches in one night. We really don't. And I think it's going to exhaust the people that are there. Look, they're even making the blood and guts show 2.5 hours because they know to squeeze both of these matches in, they're going to need a little extra time. This is not something you can do, on a 2-hour show. You're going to start with one, you're going to finish with the other, and you need some time to breathe between the two, because if you do them back to back, it's going to be a disaster. But I'm not into it. I'm not into 2 blood and guts matches on the same show, because what happens then is that one of the 2 matches will ultimately suffer because it will not be able to do certain things in the cage because the other match will have precedence, probably the men's one. It will probably have precedence over the women's match in doing stuff. So there's a potential there. There's a potential there for the women's match to come across as second rate, because most likely all of the big spots are going to be reserved for Darby and, whoever the fuck is going to be ready, and willing to throw themselves off the cage and such. And they're not going to do these big crazy spots in the first match so that you're like, oh, well, we've seen everything in this match. And then you're not impressed when you see the second one. It's kind of like the Royal Rumble now in WWE. Now that you have 2 Royal Rumbles, there's always one. I mean, we can argue over the quality of both of them over the past couple of years, which is fine. But there's always one that suffers because the creative spots, the big reveals, they're mostly all kept for one of the 2, as opposed, and the other one sort of eats dirt, sort of has to kick rocks and be more of a typical match, a typical battle royal, right? That's the thing. And I don't know, I'm not that excited about it. I'm not that excited about it, and it's specific. I think even above and beyond the fact that neither of the blood and guts matches feel earned. Outside of that, I think having 2 on the same show is going to be it's going to be an exercise. I think it's going to be. I think it. Look, let me choose my words. It has the potential to be a difficult watch. It has a potential to be tedious. I'm not excited for it. Now, maybe the creative geniuses at AEW will figure out a way to make both of these matches memorable, and that's ultimately all I want. That at the end, I'm like, you know what? This was really good. Better yet, treat me. This was great, you know? Maybe ultimately that's what's going to happen. And I would be 100% okay with that. I legitimately would be 100% okay with that. But I'm not, you should have done one or the other. Either the women or the dudes, especially when you consider that neither match feels earned. There are no feuds happening amidst those two matches throughout all of those people who are involved. There are no feuds that feel deserving of a blood and guts match. Now this just feels like, well, we have to do it. And this is a trap in which AEW is falling into and could have avoided. They could have just hand waved it this year and say, you know what? No, we can't do it this year. All of our top guys are gone. We don't have enough heat. Let's just scrap the match. We'll do it. We'll do it next year. And would people have been truly upset? Would they have stopped watching AEW? No, because then they would have gotten really excited at the idea of a blood and guts next year because we skipped this year. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Don't know if you know this, kids. And it's sometimes one of your best tricks as a performer, as a promoter. You just take something away for a while and then you give it back. Sometimes that is all you have to do. I don't know. Look, I really feel like a negative Nancy on this one, but I'm always upfront with you guys and gals and non-binary pals. I'm always straight with how I'm feeling, with how I feel this is being approached. And I can't say this is exciting. I can't say I'm into it. I can't say that this is a great idea. And look, tickets aren't flying out the windows for this either, because it's not hot. It's for the same reasons I just told you. The people of Greensboro, North Carolina are like, well, why should I go see this match? What's the hook? Why am I excited to go see this? Oh, it's blood and guts. Yeah, but why these people? Why is this match happening? It's not a hot match. It's not. So I'm not surprised that they're not filling out the arena. There's still 2 weeks left. Okay. Maybe on Dynamite this week, they're going to pull some incredible angle. Like I said, the creative geniuses just might start flowing. And they do this angle on the show, which will just blow you the fuck away. You're just going to be like, holy shit. Did not see that coming. Can't wait for this. Now, I don't know. We'll revisit this. We'll revisit this conversation, very soon on a Dynamite review here on the channel, on the podcast. It'll be a Dynamite review of this very show, and we'll see if my instincts were good or not. And I believe me when I tell you with sincerity, with hand on heart, I hope my instincts are off on this, and that it ends up being this phenomenal bloody, extraordinary brawl that just kept me on the edge of my seats times 2, twice in one evening. I hope my instincts are wrong, but I don't know. I would say more times than not, my instincts are pretty good. So those are my thoughts on the upcoming Blood and the Goots. Let's head on over. Let's see what the chat is talking about. Let's see what we're all talking about here. Spring, summer, and now it's in November. Yeah, true. I blame the network for making Blood and Guts like having to sell pay-per-view. Is it? Because Tony loves this kind of shit too. He loves having his signature matches and the great AEW traditions and whatnot. So I don't know. I don't know if we're being facetious a bit or not. If we're blame the network like WWE fans blame TKO kind of thing. I feel like they could have done the steel cage match from Forbidden Door. Feel like that match type has a lot of potential. And you know what? Like the steel cage match for Forbidden Door had just about as much heat as this one too. It was slapped together pretty last minute too. Like it didn't feel necessarily special. Turned out to be a big deal because of the angle. But, I don't know, Warren, unlike women's four ways, actually, AEW actually has a proud, storied tradition of kick-ass women's hardcore matches. You are absolutely right. That I am 100% behind you. Like, the women in AEW, when you give them access to, shit to maim each other with, they usually deliver. Their ergo, why the hell isn't the Queen of Plunder Anna Jay in this match? Right? I feel like if there's real beef, Chris and Monet's team will probably win, and then she basically does a mercy killing on Harley. I don't think they're... Are we talking about Statlander turning? I don't... They are not turning Chris Statlander. Oh, Monet will be doing a mercy killing on Harley. Sorry, I misread that. That's my bad. Yeah, sure. Because they're pals, Harley and Statlander. Sorry, I misread that. The women's match feels like it would make more sense over the men's. I don't know. I think they're on equal footing. I think they have the same amount of, there's the same amount of hate and heat. Like Blood and Guts should punctuate the end of a feud. It should be like guttural and visceral. It should be like, we've been fighting and hating each other for months. We've headlined pay-per-views. This is how we have to end this. It's a full circle moment of violence. And here's the other thing. There's no guarantee that a Blood and Guts match, as much as I enjoy the War Game styles matches, there's no guarantee that it's going to be good. Because I would say a lot of the time, most of the time, that a significant chunk of War Game style matches are not very good, folks. We have some good ones in our heads, but we've got ourselves a load of stinkeroonies too. So there's no guarantee this is going to be, either of them will be a great match. Blood and guts is a tradition. TK has a weird thing for traditions. True. They probably would have called TK a misogynist for not doing a women's blood and guts after 4 years of doing it. Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I find that Tony Khan books his women's division with a lot of care. And I know it's, it's not something the detractors like to hear, where but I believe that Tony books it with more care than people let on, because he wants to make sure that everything is in its right place, so that it won't come across as second rate, that he's just throwing things together. He wants to make sure that the right people are in the right spots for what he wants to do when it comes to the women's division. And the best example of that is the tournament for the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles. He has had, look, folks, I am not kidding when I tell you Tony Khan has had those titles in his possession for a long fucking time. They have been ready to go for a while. And he is the guy who has been putting it off. And he's even said it a few times on the media calls. He says, I want to make sure that everything is done right. I just want the right people to be in the right spots. And then injuries happen and he goes, fuck. And then he rethinks his thing. Or the worst thing that he does is he delays. He delays having a thing happen because it's not happening as perfectly as he had perceived, as he had imagined in his mind. But I find he books his women's division with more care than people want to give him credit for. Like, for sure, he got super fucking bummed when Penelope Ford got injured. That I'm convinced. He got extremely bummed with that. So he turns around, throws in Marina Shafir, because he's like, well, this is what we got to do. It's like, we've already announced we can't backtrack anymore, right? But he wanted all of these women to be in all these spots. He wanted to give it time to breathe. He wanted the concept of tag teams, of women's tag teams, to exist before bringing in the titles. Like, there was a lot of care that was put into the booking of this tournament. I feel like this is not handled with as much care. That's all. Am I the only one who remembers 2 months of them teasing a women's blood and guts match? The only problem is that they stopped doing that for a month, and then Jamie Hayter called it out out of the blue. Exactly. That's to my point, actually. That's not booked with care. That's just like slapdash. And look, there's one thing about it's one thing teasing, but it's another thing to give us reasons for it to happen. Make us feel shit. I don't feel like this blood and guts match is significant for the women's division or the men's guy. Like, it doesn't feel necessary or important for either side right now. The match will likely be pretty good, but the build has been crap, so no excitement generated and no ticket sales, or very low. They better stack that card. I mean, sure, but these matches aren't short. These blood and guts matches are not short. So it's like, what, 30, 40 minutes a match? So let's say conservatively, it takes an hour out of your show. And so then that leaves you with 90 minutes. And you got to get your promos in. I don't know. I don't know. If anything, the women's blood and guts feels like it's fuel. Not so much on Ring of Honor. Yep. You're telling me, pal. Got to reheat this in the tournament like reheating food in the microwave. It almost feels like they had to delay Blood and Guts event a couple of months. I mean, look, who knows what happens, right? There's so much stuff going behind the scenes. I couldn't tell you. You know, I had people come, well, why don't they do it? Look, they're running small venues too. Like they're running these smaller venues. They had to go to a coliseum for this one. They had to go to an arena to put 2 rings back to back, right? You're not going to do this kind of setup in the ECW arena or in the fucking, what was the Chicago venue? You know, you just can't do it. You need an arena. You need a full-size arena to do this. That's why they decided to do it in Greensboro, because Greensboro is a good wrestling town and AEW has a lot of goodwill there. Matches are kind of, you know, just there. It's not generating excitement. You know, maybe they'll rally, maybe they'll come around, but look, you know, be curious. Look, I'll watch it. That's the thing, is that I'll end up, I'm going to watch it and I'll probably find some good things to say about it. Don't get me wrong. But this lead up, this build to these matches, it feels very empty. It feels very contrived to a degree, and I'm not into it. I don't feel excited about it. I don't feel like I'm not into it. And again, I'm a guy who likes the blood and guts. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So we'll see. Just a few days away, really, and then you can all mock me or tell me, Warren, you were right. I'll say, I don't know. But we got to drop this before we leave here. Big Stardom show. Well, you know, eventful Stardom show that happened this weekend, where Saya Kamitani fought Momo Watanabe and retained her Wonder of Stardom championship, and Shuri. And not the Wonder, the World of Stardom, excuse me. The Wonder of Stardom is the other belt. So let's do that again. There was an eventful Stardom show this weekend where Saya Kamitani defeated Momo Watanabe to retain her World of Stardom championship, and then got challenged after the match by 2 individuals. Let's read this article here. Over at Post Wrestling, made available to us from the friend John Pollock. Shuri issued a challenge to end Stardom's Crimson Nightmare event, which was the show this weekend, to set up a major title match for Wrestle Kingdom 20. Saya Kamitani retained the World of Stardom Championship and Strong Women's Championship against Momo Watanabe in the main event of Monday's card at Ota Ward City Gym. After she was confronted by Shuri, who had wrestled earlier in the evening, the challenge was made for January 4 for a double title match at the Tokyo Dome, with Kamitani defending the Strong Women's title and Shuri defending the IWGP Women's title. Shuri recently won the IWGP Women's title at King of Pro Wrestling from Sarii and has yet to defend the belt. The two have wrestled twice, with Shuri beating Kamitani in July 2021 in the 5-Star Grand Prix and wrestling to a draw later that year. Now, before Wrestle Kingdom, here's the other thing. Before Shuri came out, there was another person who came out to challenge Kamitani. Let's read about it. Before Wrestle Kingdom, Kamitani will defend the World of Stardom title against Saori Anou at Dream Queendom on December 29 at the Ryogoku Kokugan at the promotion's annual year-end show. Oh, and Starlight Kid lost the Wonder of Stardom Championship to Konami. So, we've got ourselves some stuff to talk about here. First of all, I think okay. let's go in chronological order here as far as defenses go. Saori Anu stepping up to challenge Kamitani at Queendom this year is, kind of takes me by surprise in one hand, but on the other hand, it doesn't, because I think she's more than ready for this spot. And I think Anu is one of the best wrestlers that Stardom has on their roster. And I was like, isn't that interesting? So I was like, okay, SLK drops her belt. She drops the Wonder of Stardom belt. And I'm like, is she losing up? And then I'm like, Kamitani versus Starlight Kid at Queendom. That could get me going. That's something that I'm like, I'm into that. 2 big stars. Let's do it. I'm into it. But no, they're going down this route instead. They're going down this route with Anu stepping up to the plate in this big opportunity, right? And at first I thought it was curious, but then I'm like, look, this is a promotion right now, firing on all cylinders, doing everything right, or at least some of it. We'll get to that in a second. Doing a lot of things right now at that. And why not then turn around and give Saori Anu her spot, her chance to be at the top of the promotion, and maybe, whatever happens, create another top star, because I think Saori Anu has the juice. I think she has the thing to make her come across as a big time champion. I think she can be up there with the best that Stardom has to offer. I really do. Because look, this is a company who took a chance on Kamitani, a couple of months ago, about a year ago, right? They took a chance on Kamitani, and boy, oh boy, has this gamble fucking paid off for them. So why not, can we strike magic? Can magic strike twice? Can lightning strike twice? Can we do magic again? Whatever. Pick your convoluted analogy that I've just massacred. And you're like, you know what? I'm into this. I'm into seeing what a Saori Anu top tier main event spot might look like. And because then it's like, then I get to questioning myself, well, if not her, who, right? And then you remember, there's no more Mayus, there's no more Tom Nakanos, there's, everyone's gone. So it's like, okay, well, this is what you got to do. This is the kind of shit that I want New Japan to do. Okay? This is exactly the kind of bullshit, the good kind of bullshit that I want New Japan to be pulling off. Instead of trying to have it both ways, with keeping the old guys on top and, having the younger upcomers sort of mess around on the mid card. Just tell us, look, you see this woman here? This Anu, this is the one that you have to keep your eyes on. This is what you got to do. This is what I've wanted fucking New Japan to be doing for years. And Stardom is all in on it. So I'm not going to sit here and go, bad choice. No. Let's go. Let's see what can happen here. Now, we can have conversations as we get closer to Queendom, right? It's like a little less than 2 months away. But as we get closer, we can have these conversations as to whether or not Kamitani drops the title. Kamitani drops the title, right? Titles in this case. And maybe it's like, do we do it or not? Like if you were asked, if the show was tomorrow, right? If the show was tomorrow, I would absolutely not take the belt off of Saya Kamitani. She is clearly right now an irrefutable draw. She's not going anywhere as my top champion in my company. She's staying there and she's drawing money. I'm not touching her aura just yet. Fuck no. If I can have Starlight Kid, be a champion for over 300 days, well, I can extend the same type of courtesy here to Kamitani, who, by the way, is also a proven draw at this point. So no, I'm not taking the title off of her. I had some people in my circles discuss, the fact that she's also being set up for a title for title defense at Wrestle Kingdom sort of telegraphs the result of the Wrestle Queendom match. I think it kind of does. That's fair. That is a fair. I think that's a very fair thing to say. I think it can absolutely. I think it can absolutely telegraph the response, but it's the World of Stardom title that's on the line at Queendom. So she will still have the strong title, whether she wins or loses. At bare minimum, she still has the strong title going into Wrestle Kingdom. Now, does the strong women's title mean anything? No, it doesn't. To me, New Japan Strong is a dead brand. I don't think it has any juice at all. Is this a way? Is this a way to have Saya lose the big red belt and then end up with another big world championship? Maybe. The IWGP World Heavyweight Championship is not in Stardom, is not perceived as a big time belt. You could even argue that the Wonder of Stardom title is perceived as a bigger title than the IWGP Women's World title. So I don't know. There's all these questions, of course, that you can ask yourselves, and we'll be pondering those questions as we get closer. But if the match was tomorrow, I am not touching a single hair of Saya Kamitani's aura for at least another few months. And as long as she is putting butts in seats, that woman stays my top draw, my top woman. She continues to be the face of the promotion. It's bar none. Undisputable. But you see, okay, I have not watched the show yet. And I'll probably eventually come around with a review. I think I'll watch the show first and then, or maybe I'll just throw some reviews together of individual matches. But we'll see how it goes. I haven't watched the match yet. I haven't watched the show yet. I'm not surprised that Momo Watanabe lost. I don't think that made any sense for her to win the title off of Kamitani. That would have been gross negligence. But a lot of people, I even said it myself. It's like a lot of people have a tendency to say that Stardom does no wrong, right? And these days, look, they're showing results. They're showing tremendous, incredible results. It's hard not to think that it's hard to not think that they're doing everything right. Their booking plans right now is exactly what you would want from your favorite promotion right now. Just focusing on new, exciting talent, putting them in new positions where you've got all these new matches that are opening up, just exciting breath of fresh air. That's, they understand this formula here. Top level superstar on top of that, driving force, like everything's just coming together, right? And I'm looking at all of this, and then we have the Momo match, right? And they did jack shit for this match. Like they really did. They didn't do much to make this match feel exciting or important. And Momo Watanabe was the 5-star Grand Prix winner this year. She won their G1 tournament, which is a big deal. But this match here did not feel like a big deal. Was it because it was obvious that Momo wasn't going to win? That no one was betting the farm on Momo Watanabe winning this title. Was that why? Because the end result, for the weeks and weeks of build that they had for this, it's been very, very tepid. It's been very, very ordinary. They could have done some real interesting things because they're both in the same faction. They're both in hate. They could have done some really interesting stuff, but instead there really wasn't anything that you could really sink your teeth into. And this just felt like a monster of the week type of situation, monster of the month. And Saya goes through her, and there we go. And Momo's all the way back down. And it sucks because I would have thought that Momo would have been one of the women who would have benefited most from Hatman's disappearance from Stardom. But it turns out not. She's pretty much in the same patterns that she already was in. I don't know. It's been very curious. And so I'm very interested to see how they're going to build the dream and the Queendom match. Because that to me was not it wasn't a good build for Momo's match. We didn't get to where we wanted to be with it. I don't think it was very good. And, sort of cracks that veneer that, Stardom is so great and can do no wrong. I can't get behind that. I don't agree with that as much as I did. Again, is it entirely due to the fact that Momo and that Momo had no chance in hell? That when you looked at the landscape, you're like, there's no way that Saya's dropping the title to Momo at this stage. And that could be, But there were no signs here. There were no signs that Momo was winning the title, and I think ultimately that hurt it. But they didn't make this feud or this rivalry, this defense interesting. And it's weird because Momo is a 5-star Grand Prix champion, but she just didn't feel that way. She didn't feel that way. Everyone's saying, "Oh, Okada, genius booker," or is he? I don't know. We'll keep. I'm not ready to throw him out with the bathwater here, but a little chink in the armor, a little crack in the veneer, maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but we've still got months ahead of us. We've still got some time. Oh boy, oh boy. I think we're going to start wrapping this one up, folks, tonight. What is Okada thinking with this booking? Yeah, I don't know. I don't particularly like this idea of that's the thing is I feel like the Queendom results have already been, I think the Queendom results have already been telegraphed, unfortunately. At this point, all you can really hope, this is what you hope, I think. I think what you hope out of the Queendom results is that Saoriano ends up becoming a truly top tier star, and that she gets all the shine that she needs to be elevated truly to a next level in the company. So that she can circle, so that people feel like she can hang with the types of Kamitani in this company. So that they feel like we can all, that she's on that level. So that maybe next time she challenges, it is the right one. Maybe this is the start of a really compelling story. Because, like I said, as it stands right now, I don't see Kamitani losing the title. I think it'd be a bad move. But, you know, things in wrestling move fast. Let's see in 2 months if I feel the same way. But really, all I'm hoping for, the only thing I'm hoping for, is for Kamitani to Saori Anou to come out of that match looking like a superstar. And then it becomes, then you have your 1A, 1B type of situation. You know, you have two top stars that sort of complement each other, you know, like a Steve Austin, The Rock kind of thing. You know, you have 1A, 1B. You have Kamitani, you have Saori Anou, 1A, 1B. That's all I'm saying. So there you go. New Japan getting rid of Big Lilac. Look, it's like I pointed out at the King of Pro Wrestling show review when they announced the dates for those new US shows, right? They didn't brand it as a New Japan Strong show. It was a New Japan is coming to America type of situation. Come see your favorite New Japan stars and whatnot. And they weren't branding it as a New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong show. So I'm like, I just get rid of all those titles. Get rid of the entirety of the Strong branding. It's pointless, really. There's no need to it. TJP is off doing his own thing. You know, you don't have to feed your ego, his ego anymore. It's fine. It's all fine. There we go. We're done for tonight. Went a little over on top of that. So don't say I don't spoil you, kids. I will be back on Thursday. Well, Wednesday first with the MrWarrenHayes show, of course. Featuring my review of the Hiroshi Tanahashi final goodbye memorial salutations final show in Gifu this weekend. So I got my full review of that will be available on the podcast on Wednesday, but it's an early access for members of the channel. So if you want to go check that out, why not? And I will be back. So that's it. We'll be back for that on Wednesday. Thursday, the review for AEW Dynamite. And then in the evening, back with the stream. Unless my body falls apart like it did last week. So there you go. If you dress up as Jacques for Halloween, you need the nunchucks because people will call the police if you have only the butterfly knife. Yeah, they'll call the police. For sure they will. And butterfly knives, they're just illegal, period, right? There's not even, I think they're just illegal. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. Hope you have a great week. Thanks for showing up. Why don't you go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, huh? How about that? Take care. We'll see you next time.